There are moments in life that completely change the way you see the world. For me, one of those moments happened more than 7 years ago, when my plane touched down in China. I remember pressing my face against the airplane window thinking, this is it, a brand new chapter begins today. I had left behind everything familiar. My family, my friends, a 20-year corporate career, the country where I had built my entire adult life. And I thought I was ready. I had watched the YouTube videos, read the articles, joined the Facebook groups, done the research. I wasn't ready. Because nobody, not a single video, article, or forum, can truly prepare you for what it actually feels like to live in China for the first time. These are the 25 things I wish someone had told me before I moved. Not to scare you, but to make sure you arrive better prepared than I did. Welcome to the Middle Kingdom Code. Let's go. 1. Nobody uses cash. My very first shock happened inside a convenience store. I just wanted a bottle of water. I reached into my pocket, pulled out cash, and immediately realized I was the only person in the store doing that. Young people, older people, delivery drivers, students, businessmen, everyone was paying with their phone. A quick scan of a QR code, and they were gone. I remember standing there thinking, have I just landed in the future? Here's the 2026 reality. China is completely cashless. From luxury shopping malls to street food stalls, QR code payments are the default for virtually every transaction. As of early 2026, you can link your home country's Visa or MasterCard directly to WeChat Pay or Alipay. With single transaction limits now raised to $5,000. Setup takes about 15 minutes. Do it before you fly. That tiny moment in the convenience store taught me my very first lesson about China. Things here often work differently. Not better, not worse, just differently. 2. Your phone becomes your entire life. By day 3, I had stopped carrying my wallet entirely. Back home, forgetting my wallet would have been a crisis. In China, forgetting my phone would have been a disaster. Within days, my phone had become my bank, my map, my taxi, my translator, my shopping cart, my restaurant menu, my train ticket, and my way of making new friends. WeChat alone handles messaging, payments, food ordering, ride-hailing, doctor appointments, utility bills, government services, and social media, all in one single platform. I remember laughing to myself one afternoon thinking, if this battery dies, I am completely stuck. That was the moment I understood. Learning China wasn't just about learning the language. It was about learning an entirely different digital way of living. 3. China looks nothing like you imagined. I'll admit something most people won't. Before arriving, I had unconsciously built a picture of China in my head. A picture shaped by news headlines, movies, and things people had said over the years. The reality challenged every single part of that image. Modern skylines rivaling any city on Earth. Subway systems cleaner and more efficient than most Western capitals. Technology so embedded in daily life it becomes invisible. A pace of innovation that genuinely takes your breath away. Every single day of that first week, I caught myself saying, I honestly wasn't expecting this. 1 week was enough to make me question assumptions I didn't even know I was carrying. And honestly, that might be the most valuable thing China ever gave me. The habit of replacing assumptions with actual experience. 4. The internet works completely differently. Here, one evening I opened my laptop, the way I had done thousands of times before. I clicked Gmail. Nothing. YouTube. Nothing. Google. Nothing. For about 30 seconds, I genuinely thought something was wrong with my apartment's internet connection. Only later did I understand. China's internet censorship system, known as the Great Firewall, blocks Google, YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Netflix, and Spotify completely. without exception. This was my most important preparation lesson. Sort your VPN before your flight, not after you land. Because after you land, getting one becomes significantly harder, and in some cases, impossible. 5. The high-speed train will redefine what fast means to you. People had told me China's trains were impressive. I thought, a train is a train. Then I boarded one. As it quietly pulled out of the station, I kept waiting for the vibration, the rattling, the rocking that comes with speed. None of it happened. It felt smoother than some flights I had taken. Then I looked at the speed display on the wall. 305 kilometers per hour. China operates the world's largest high-speed rail network. Over 45,000 kilometers of track as of 2026. What would take 4 hours by car in many countries takes 90 minutes here. Silently. Comfortably. On time. I smiled. Not because of the speed, because China had just challenged another assumption I had brought with me. 6. Food delivery will ruin you for every other country. During my first week, I ordered food delivery mostly out of curiosity. 23 minutes later, a driver knocked on my door. Not fast food. A full, freshly cooked meal from a real restaurant. Delivered to my apartment door. For less than the price of a coffee back home. Meituan and LA.me deliver from virtually any restaurant in 20 to 40 minutes, with delivery fees of just 3 to 5 yuan, roughly 40 to 70 cents. I remember sitting on my apartment floor eating that first meal thinking, I may never cook again. Spoiler, I was mostly right. 7. The supermarket is a full adventure. My first supermarket visit lasted almost an hour. Not because it was large, because I couldn't read a single label. I stood in the noodle aisle for 10 minutes holding 2 identical-looking packages, completely unable to tell if one was spicy or sweet. I bought both. One was extremely spicy. One was dessert noodles. I still don't know how I confused those. What I learned that day: download a translation app with a camera function before you go. Point your phone at any Chinese label, and it translates instantly. It works. It changes everything. Google Translate's camera mode works well before you arrive. Once you're in China, switch to Baidu Translate. It works without a VPN and handles Chinese characters more accurately on the ground. 8. Everyone drinks hot water. Everywhere. Always. I asked a colleague for a glass of water during my first week. She handed me something warm. I checked the tap. Also warm. In the office kitchen, a hot water dispenser. On the train, a hot water station at the end of every carriage. In my apartment building lobby, a communal hot water point. Hot water is deeply embedded in Chinese culture, rooted in traditional medicine and the belief that warm water supports health and digestion. It took me about 3 weeks to stop reflexively reaching for cold water, and another month to actually appreciate what I had been handed. Now, I travel with an electric kettle. 9. Shared bicycles will change how you move through a city. One morning, I walked outside and noticed dozens of brightly colored bicycles parked along the street. No locks, no stations, no attendants. You scan a QR code on the bike with your phone. It unlocks. You ride wherever you need to go, park it anywhere, lock it, and the app registers the end of your trip automatically. The entire transaction costs a few yuan, sometimes less than 20 cents. I rode one to get lunch that day. 7 years later, I still use them regularly. And I still find it remarkable that this system works as smoothly as it does. 10. You will feel unexpectedly safe. This one surprised me more than almost anything else on this list. I walked home late one night during my first week, later than I should have, in a city I barely knew, in a country whose language I couldn't speak. And I felt completely safe. No edge, no hyper-awareness, no calculating which side of the street to walk on. China consistently ranks among the safest countries in the world for personal safety. Violent crime rates are extremely low by international comparison. Many foreigners describe feeling safer here than in cities they had lived in for decades. I have now lived here for more than 7 years. That sense of safety has never changed. 11. People dance. In the park. At dawn, on my 4th morning, I woke up early, slightly jet-lagged, and decided to take a walk. I turned a corner near a public park and stopped. Dozens of people, mostly older adults, were dancing together in organized groups. Some were doing Tai Chi. Others were using outdoor exercise equipment. A group of women in matching outfits were moving through a choreographed routine to music from a small portable speaker. At 6:30 in the morning, in a public park, for free. This is called Yanchang Wu, Guangcheng Wu, public square dancing. It happens in parks across China every single morning and evening, in every city, every season, without fail. That morning permanently changed how I think about public space and community life. 12. Getting around is easier than you think. I needed to get across the city during my first week and decided to try Didi, China's dominant ride-hailing app. I entered my destination, tapped confirm, and watched a small car icon move toward me on the map. 4 minutes later, a driver pulled up. He knew exactly where I was going. The route was already set. When we arrived, the fare was deducted from WeChat Pay automatically. I didn't speak a single word. Neither did I need to. I remember sitting in the back of that car thinking, how is this easier than getting a taxi at home? It just is. Quick pause right here. We are halfway through the list, and I want to hear from you. Which of these 12 things surprises you the most? Drop it in the comments right now. I read every single one, and I genuinely want to know what you weren't expecting. Okay, let's keep going. 13. You can order food without speaking a single word. One evening, I walked into a small local restaurant alone. No English menu, no English-speaking staff. Nobody who could help me order. I did what I had watched locals do. I opened my phone, pointed the camera at the QR code on the table, and a full digital menu appeared. Photos of every dish, prices, and an order button. I tapped what looked good, paid through WeChat Pay, and 10 minutes later the food arrived. I never spoke a word. Neither did anyone else need to. This moment genuinely shifted something for me. China has built systems that work around language barriers in ways that most countries haven't even begun to think about. 14. Online shopping arrives faster than you can believe. I needed a few things for my apartment during my first week. A colleague suggested I try Taobao, China's dominant e-commerce platform. I found what I needed, placed the order, and went to sleep assuming delivery would take a few days. The next morning, everything was outside my door. Taobao and JD.com offer next-day delivery for most items in major cities. Same-day delivery is increasingly common. The logistics infrastructure behind this is extraordinary, so dense and efficient that overnight delivery has become the standard expectation, not a premium option. I've since ordered everything from furniture to food supplements this way. It has never stopped feeling slightly magical. 15. Your apartment will surprise you. Before arriving, I had searched for expat apartments online and built up a certain visual expectation. The reality was different in ways I hadn't anticipated. Kitchens are often smaller and simpler, because most people order delivery or eat out regularly. Cooking at home is genuinely less common here. Washing machines are sometimes in the bathroom rather than a separate laundry room. Buildings that look dated on the outside often reveal surprisingly modern, well-maintained interiors. The biggest adjustment: fully furnished rentals are the norm. You move in with everything already in place: furniture, appliances, kitchenware, sometimes even linens. Coming from a country where you furnish everything from scratch, that felt like an unexpected gift. 16. Neighbors still know each other. Here, in many Western cities, neighbors are strangers. I discovered this wouldn't be my experience in China on day 2. I was standing outside my building completely lost, trying to figure out how to get the key fob to work on the entrance gate. An elderly man I had never seen before walked over, took the fob from my hand without a word, tapped it against a spot I hadn't noticed, and the gate swung open. Then he smiled, pointed at the fob, pointed at the spot, and nodded, as if to say, "Now you know." That was my introduction to Shaoku life, the residential compound culture that defines neighborhood living across China. Older residents playing cards under covered walkways every afternoon, food stalls setting up near the gate every evening, children playing outside while parents talked nearby. It reminded me of something I thought had mostly disappeared from modern urban life. China still has it. 17. Chinese food is nothing like the Chinese food you know. I thought I liked Chinese food before I arrived. I quickly discovered I had been eating one very narrow interpretation of it for my entire life. The dishes I had grown up with in Chinese restaurants abroad represent a tiny fraction of what China actually eats. Sichuan food, numbing, fiery, layered with complexity. Cantonese dim sum, delicate, precise, nothing like what I had tried before. Shanghainese braised pork belly, Lanzhou hand-pulled noodles, Xinjiang lamb skewers straight off a charcoal grill. Every region has its own culinary identity as distinct as the difference between Italian and Spanish food. I have spent 7 years eating my way through it. I am still not finished. 18. Daily life is built around convenience. You've never experienced around day 4. I needed to pay an electricity bill. Back home, that would have meant finding the right website, logging into an account, entering a reference number, waiting for a confirmation email, and hoping it processed before a deadline. In China, I opened WeChat, found the utility payment section, entered my apartment number, saw the balance, tapped pay, and received a confirmation receipt. 11 seconds. That was the moment I understood this wasn't just convenience for convenience's sake. China has built end-to-end digital infrastructure into the fabric of ordinary daily life in a way that most of the world is still decades away from achieving. Coming from a background in business operations and consulting, I found myself genuinely studying how this worked, not just as a user, but as someone who understood what it takes to build systems that function at this scale. It permanently changed how I think about efficiency. 19. The language barrier is more navigable than you think. The first time this really hit me was in a pharmacy. I needed something for a headache. Every single label was in Chinese. The pharmacist spoke no English. I typed headache medicine into a translation app, showed her my phone, and she handed me exactly what I needed, with a smile. That interaction taught me something important. Communication doesn't always require a shared language. It requires willingness. Mandarin is genuinely one of the hardest languages for English speakers to learn, but the day-to-day barriers are far more manageable than most people expect, especially in major cities in 2026, where apps, QR menus, and translation tools have quietly removed most of the friction. 20. Strangers will surprise you with their kindness. During my first week, I got properly lost in a part of the city I didn't recognize, with a dead phone battery. A woman noticed me looking confused. She didn't speak English. I didn't speak Chinese. She spent 20 minutes walking me to where I needed to go, refused any form of thanks, and disappeared before I could even try to offer one. I have a dozen stories like this from my first week alone. The narrative that China is unwelcoming to foreigners does not match my experience, not even slightly. The hospitality I encountered, especially once people understood I was genuinely trying to engage with their country rather than just pass through it, was extraordinary. 21. The scale of Chinese cities will recalibrate your brain. Before coming to China, I thought I understood what a large city was. I grew up in Brazil. I had spent years working across the United States. I knew Sao Paulo. I knew New York. I was not prepared for this. The first time I took an elevated highway in from the airport, I looked out the window and saw something I didn't have a mental category for. Not a skyline. A skyline that continued, unbroken, in every direction, as far as I could see, all the way to the horizon. Not one cluster of tall buildings with suburbs spreading out below them. Towers, everywhere, in every direction, as far as the eye could reach. I didn't say anything. I just stared. Later I learned that the city I had moved to had a larger population than many entire countries I had visited. That what I was seeing from that highway was only one district of many. That moment permanently recalibrated my sense of scale. 7 years later, I still find that view remarkable. 22. The overwhelm passes faster than you expect. Here is something no video prepared me for. The overwhelm doesn't last. My first day in China was one of the most disorienting experiences of my life. By day 3, I had figured out the subway. By day 5, I had navigated my first solo restaurant experience. By day 7, I was beginning to build the small routines that turn a foreign city into a place that starts to feel familiar. The adaptation curve in China is steep, but it is also short. Most of the things that feel impossible in week 1 become automatic within a month. Remember that when you're standing in that convenience store on your first day, holding cash that nobody wants, wondering what you've gotten yourself into. 23. You will miss things you never thought you would. I had prepared for the obvious challenges, the language barrier, the food adjustment, the digital learning curve. I hadn't prepared for the smaller things, the particular smell of a bakery I used to walk past every morning, certain radio stations, familiar brands in familiar places, the ability to read a sign without thinking about it. These small background comforts of home reveal themselves only when they're gone. I share this not to discourage you. None of it lasted, and none of it was insurmountable. But it is real, and it is worth knowing. Give yourself permission to miss things. It doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. 24. Living here will change how you see your own country. This one took me the longest to articulate. Sometime around day 6, I realized I was thinking about home differently. Not with homesickness exactly, with a new kind of perspective. Living in China, genuinely living here, not just visiting, holds up a mirror to assumptions you didn't know you were making. About efficiency, about community, about privacy, about progress, about what a good quality of life actually looks like. Some of what I saw in that mirror made me appreciate where I came from more deeply. Some of it made me question things I had taken for granted my entire life. Both reactions were valuable. 7 years on, that shift in perspective is one of the things I am most grateful for. 25. China will show you that everything you thought was normal is just one option. On the last night of my first week, I sat on the floor of my apartment. No furniture yet. Just me, my laptop, a bottle of water I had paid for with my phone, and a takeaway meal that had arrived in 20 minutes for less than $3. I had just spent 7 days in a country where 800 million people pay for everything with a scan of their phone, where trains travel at 300 kilometers an hour and arrive on time, where a stranger had walked me home when I was lost and asked for nothing in return, where people danced in the park at dawn and neighbors still knew each other's names. And I realized something that has shaped every year I've spent here since. Everything I had ever thought of as normal, the way cities worked, the way people paid for things, the way neighbors interacted, the way food was delivered, the way infrastructure was built, was not normal. It was just one option, one version of how human society can organize itself. China is a completely different version. Not a better version, not a worse version. A genuinely different one, built on different priorities, different histories, different values, and different answers to the question of what daily life should look like. Sitting on that floor, I understood for the first time that I hadn't just moved to a new country. I had moved into a new way of seeing the world. Everything after that has been different because of it. Outro. When I first came to China, I thought I was moving to a different country. What I didn't realize was that I was also moving into a completely different way of living, thinking, and seeing the world. Looking back today, none of those 25 things were bad. Most of them were simply unfamiliar. And that is an important difference. If you are planning to move here, come with curiosity, not comparisons. Don't spend your first weeks asking why things aren't like your country. Ask instead what you can learn from the way things are done here. That one shift in mindset transformed my experience. It is one of the biggest reasons I am still here 7 years later. And it is exactly why I created the Middle Kingdom Code. When I arrived, I had to figure everything out alone. I don't want that to be your story. If this video helped you, subscribe. Every week we publish honest, practical, experience-based guides so you can arrive in China with confidence and avoid the mistakes I made. And when you're ready, watch the next video. 30 things you must know before moving to China. It builds directly on everything we covered today. I'm Joe Noguera. This is the Middle Kingdom Code. I'll see you in the next one.